Hey, now I can't really hide with that title. I released an album called Level Bangers, and it's a bit of a play on Aussie slang and some fat wobs and drum and bass. So I really enjoy putting this one together. But instead of doing a video where it's like, hey, go check it out, like and subscribe, all the links are down below, I think this would be a much better video to talk about the why, because I wasn't actually planning on releasing an album this year. Like this year I've got a lot of projects on, like I'm trying to grow the YouTube channel, building tutorial content out that's good for the community here. I've also got other music commitments on at the moment, which we'll talk about later in this video. And I've got a whole bunch of other projects I'm working on. So my time is very constrained. So I wasn't going to keep adding to the pile and snow myself under, but things sort of just fell into place because I sort of have this philosophy when I build all sorts of things. So with music, I'll try and concatenate things and build on things, and then they can go on to future projects. So just make future me a little bit easier for myself. And yeah, I thought that would be a much better use of your time. We'll go through my philosophy about making an album, because for me, there's a lot of pitfalls in the way. There's a lot of things that you need to consider when doing something like this. So if you got your own creative space, and we're all adults here, we have our own life commitments and things that happen, and everyone's different here. So try and keep it away generic as possible, but also talk about why I do certain things. So if you find anything useful in this video, definitely give it that thumbs up, because it points the algorithm and tells it to show this to other people that might find it interesting. But other than that, let's get straight into it. So we're pretty excited to get an album underway, but we're going to do a bit of housekeeping first, because considering your time and your space is definitely going to help out in the long run. Like, it does save a lot of time. Like, we could start grabbing all these machines and start plugging up the computer and get the guitars involved, and we can start changing our setup every time, but it does add up in time and it does hamper the creativity. I'm a bit privileged because I do have an office space that I've converted as well to hold all my musical doodads, so everything's sort of connected. But if you don't have the space, or you don't have the setup to keep like a permanent setup, you got to consider, like, is there a room that you can go into, or how can I keep this mostly set up so it's only a few connections that I can do? Because when you're really inspired to use something like, say, a guitar pedal, but you can't find the charger and you got to plug it in, you got to make sure everything's connected, then you got to start dialing in your preset, it really gets in the way of the music creation, to the point where sometimes for myself personally, I just don't want to use that thing anymore. So really creating a space where it's really quick to get into making music. Just so we're on the same page, an album for myself is a nice little collection of songs that I really enjoy, and I want to get it out there into the public eye. And they work really well together, that they should be presented in a way. So whether that be Bandcamp, Spotify, bunch of the other online platforms, a group of sounds, so a bit of length. So I usually like 4 to 6, but I have gone more, I have gone less. Time of the song doesn't really matter. It's more that they work really well together. I can get it out there, and at the end I can go point at something or hold something in my hands and say, I made this. So that's my way of thinking with an album, because that gives me the most enjoyment. But what really sparked this album idea was playing on the Polyend Tracker when they updated the firmware, which gave us access to more of the instruments and being able to save out instruments, bring instruments back in. So I was playing with Game Boy samples, and I created that really cool bass line, and I'm like, this is amazing, make me jump, I'm really enjoying this. And then it sort of struck me, have I heard something like this before? So I remember I heard something similar, then I came across Mr. Ozito, and I'm pretty sure my Aussie is ruining that, and his song Flat Beat, which instantly I really enjoyed that style of music. So I wanted to create something that's a little bit myself, mixed in with that style. So I went more down the route of drum and bass and yada yada yada, and then I created this framework. So this is my first real point, is defining the scope of what you're going to work on and bringing it right in. Like, I do have a lot of different machines in this room. I've got guitars and everything. I use that a lot for exploration of sounds, but when it comes to an idea like this and I want to start exploring it, I really bring it right down into something that's core. So I've got something that I'm focusing on, and the why as well. So it's like, for me, I really want to explore this new instrument feature, as well as being able to create some of those wobbly bass lines because they make me smile. So on the Polyend Tracker, this became my main piece that I work with, and everything for this album was done on the Polyend Tracker. So I can actually plug this up on stage and play the exact same song. And that was for me because I want to start taking this thing out and playing it live. That was another motivator for this album. So I sort of created some cohesion. So there would be a nice set for like half an hour, and that's sort of the idea. So I started really nutting down into what types of drums I'm going to use, what type of sounds I'm going to use, and then start making instrument packs to support what I'm doing there. So I can quickly start getting ideas out there. That is another big point as well, is creating templates. Now this sort of goes against what a lot of people online really respect. It's like, oh no, you're working from templates, it's no good. However, when you build templates, you always want to try and create like a template that can broad out. So it's like with the Polyend Tracker, I created these drum kits that fit in one instrument, and I could start hammering them with the effects and changing up the sounds and cutting bits out. So it wasn't like the whole thing was one template, but it sort of had a similar feel, and I had a couple of different templates I could pick for drums, had a couple of different templates I could pick for bass lines, and then I could start modifying it and getting to the point that I wanted for my bit of inspiration. So it really narrows what you're trying to work on down to a fine point. So you're more focused in on the doing instead of like, oh, what happens if I put this thing in here or put some other machine in there. It's like, no, this is the road I've set for myself. But we don't want to follow it too blindly because we could go down the wrong path. And this is where I like to create ways I can pivot what I'm doing and try out different things and see how it's going. So one thing I really enjoy doing is being able to put something completely new, and I don't even know how to do it, into every project. So it gives me a room to learn something new, whether that's something I've read in an article and I really want to try out, or something that I listened to on the radio and I'd really nut in to see how they did it so I can try and replicate it in my work. And it just gives you a way to build out a toolkit of new things to try out. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't, and you can move on. But it's always giving you something new to change. And it's like you could start steering in that direction, or you could steer away. And another way I try to work with my projects, like a lot of my commitment's been focused on this YouTube channel, building the 3D music videos and the nice tutorial content. However, I am working on another community project. So it's called Weekly Beats. It's an online community with the goal for 2022 to create a song every week and get it out there and release. So it's a bit of a time pump. It's a bit of a brutal thing as well, but it's a really good community. I do recommend you go check them out. The idea is that you're able to release a song every week. Everyone comments, you all form a nice little group, and people can give you comments like how it went or what they think of it. And this is a really good way to test out the songs that you're making. It's like, are they being accepted, or are they being enjoyed by people, or are they finding things out of place? And you can sort of steer that way. Having that weekly commitment to actually test out an idea in front of people is probably the scariest thing to do when you first start, but getting songs in front of people is definitely going to give you more of an idea of if the idea is working and what your direction's doing. So all those things combined, you can really figure out if you're onto something good. And with Weekly Beats, I've been throwing a lot of the album music onto that site and testing out to see how it goes. And like, it's a weekly commitment. I'm not like trying to think of 8 different songs at once. I'm just like, right, I'm going to make this song. I'm going to add this bass line, and I'm going to see where it takes me and see if it's made some people enjoy it. And a lot of people did. So I just kept going down this route. And over time, it just concatenated. I'm like, oh, I actually got a nice body of work of sounds that are really similar, and I enjoy it. And I just sat there and played through them. I did make a few of them into little videos like these. And it was really positive to see how many people are engaging with it and laughing and enjoying the content. So I thought, let's just take it to that next stage where I take all that music and compact it into a nice little album. We've got our songs and we want to make it into an album. And this is where mixing and mastering comes in. Usually because I do like working with hardware and I want to take this on stage, I try and do most of the mixing and mastering on the device. So when I have a line come out and on stage, it's going to sound pretty much similar to what the album gives. The album gets a little bit nicer, just mixing, try and take some frequency out. I have done a full tutorial series on how to make a track with the Polyend Tracker, and I'll put a link up there. There's mixing and mastering there. I'd go over a lot of the features on the Polyend Tracker to help you out with that, so definitely check it out if you got the Polyend Tracker and doing it the same way I am. However, with just generic way, I like to mix to a relative level, so I usually have like 3 dB. I don't like anything peak over that, but I mix everything relative to that loudest sound. So everything is similar loudness relative to the song, and then what I do is I put all the songs together, so just the main wave files, and then I listen to each one and then adjust the level, master level for everything, so they're all relatively the same loudness. Now you can do this manually in your software, or for myself, I have Ozone. I do like to use it to mix and master a lot of the tracks, just because it's more about doing the final touches on the master mix and just making sure everything's relative. It has a nice loudness tool. I'll leave a link down below. There is a nice loudness tool online that will help you pick out if your song's a bit too loud for certain distribution platforms, because they all have their ways of how they want their songs, and they'll bump things up or mix things down depending on what your loudness is. So it's definitely good to get in the mindset of checking your sounds. But another thing to check the sounds, like don't just trust your fancy speakers or your nice set of headphones. Play your songs on everything, car speakers, work laptop, the headsets they give you at work that just don't have any sort of bass or treble. You want to try and listen to everything that you can, because you'll start to pick elements out of your song, like say the melody is punching really through well in your main mix, but on a pair of crappy headphones things are disappearing, and you want to sort of get a gauge of like a bandwidth of different ways people are going to listen to this song. And you can make adjustments, like for myself on the Polyend Tracker. With other things, you want to sort of come back and rearrange it. So I usually have a notebook just jotting down, like it sounded weird in this spot, and try and keep timestamps, and then I come back to the song and do the adjustments. And really doing that way of refining, I get down to something that's really nice and I like it. Cool, so we've got all our music here, and we're going to push it up to the cloud, and we're going to hit publish, and all our music's distributed. Then the publisher's going to come back to us and it's like, where's your cover art, and where's your titles, and what's your lyrics, and all this extra information that goes nicely around our album. And really, you're probably like, well, I just finished all this music and now I've got another mountain to climb and all this other stuff. It is a bit jarring, but it's not the end of the world. Like for myself, I do leverage a lot of my personal skills, like I do 3D for work. So I use 3D to make a nice, cool little cover art. And really, when you listen to your music, you probably have a theme in your head what would make a really nice cover art, but use what you have available to you. Like for like artwork itself, like there are a lot of software options out there. Like Photoshop could be really scary to someone that's quite new, but there's other products online that you can use that are a lot more easier for image manipulation, and that I might leave a link below of a few that I know of that could be useful. And go on the internet, start pulling images together and make a nice collage of like the theme that you want to have. So like a nice mood board, and bring some elements in. Don't use that as your cover art because that's copyright, but you can leverage the technology around you. Like you don't need a very high resolution camera. Like everyone's mostly got mobile phones with really nice cameras in them anyway, so you can go around taking photos. And if you do a bit of a search for unexpected album art, there are a lot of interesting shots that were very ad hoc, to say at best, and they do make some really nice cover art. And even this has made very popular cover art as well, so don't feel that you're limited by technology as well. And if you still feel inclined that you don't have a artistic bone in your body, you can start leveraging other community. Like there's places like Fiverr and Upwork. You can show them what you're working on, and it's like, hey, I really want to create an album art. You might have a very limited budget at the time, but definitely shop around. You probably will find someone that's willing to help you out to create something for your artwork. And for the text as well, you probably want to transcribe if you've got any lyrics and support that as well. That's going to help with Google searching your stuff. They'll be able to pull out the words in your lyrics and say, hey, this song might suit you, as well as the title for your music. And really that is very subjective to anyone for picking music names. And for me, I'll make the song and I'm like, well, I really feel it sounds like this name, and I'll put that as the name, and as the time goes on I'll probably change it if it changes direction. But I find that when I name something, it's usually what I want. And don't get very perfectionistic about names as well. Like, you could be sitting there for months thinking, what's the perfect name? But really, it's, think of like the 70% rule. Like we're creating something going to 100%. It's really strenuous to get perfection, but if you're aiming for that 70% and come up with like, oh, this now will do well for now, it'll sit there and then it'll grow on you, or it might change, but you've got a name there to start with, so it helps you with just having something there, and then it can improve over time. You're not being pedantic about the thing itself. Sweet, so we've got all the material that we need to release an album. There might be a few others that different distributors want, but pretty much got everything there. So we can think about the distributor, and this is very subjective as well. A lot of things have happened, so it's really up to you how you want to promote your music. This one I actually wanted to try putting on Spotify because I've put stuff on Spotify before, but I think this one might work well with a different audience. And my other go-to is Bandcamp. I do like Bandcamp itself. And yeah, so I'll just start plotting all the bits of information in there and try and do this ahead of time. I always try and give myself a month just to make sure that everything's there, cross the I's, dot the T, double check spelling, making sure everything's ready for a day like this. And this is where supplementary material to support the upcoming content really comes into play. Like, I'm doing this video, I'm doing it a bit later in the production. I've had the album sitting there for a couple of weeks now, so I feel comfortable, everything's right, but it's really trying to support people towards your content. So I did like a nice little animation, and that's been a bit of a secret thing if you spotted it with the tomato sauce and the interesting animation, but really it's leveraging what you have available to you. And it could be a lot of social media posts where you're just videoing yourself talking. It's like, hey, I'm just about ready to release. It's just creating publicity, and really you want to create something that's simple and elegant. Like, you don't want to go try and be flashy. Like, I could really try and do some like way out there CG or VFX with some filming, and like, it's way out of scope for myself personally. I've done enough time to get this album to this point. I think a lot of little projects to support this content is going to be good. So me making videos, me making little animations to capture people's interest, and then bring it all together to a day like this. And yeah, really, that's it. This is the final release of the album, so it is currently out and about. You can download it in the links below and go listen to it for yourself. Definitely leave a comment of what you think. I'm happy to hear what it sounds like. I do smile every time I hear it, so I feel it was a good release. I will be also looking at releasing the tracker files as well, just so you can get that authentic tracker experience, but also that you can pull them apart and actually see what I've done in there. So it could change your pipeline or have something to listen to. I hope that's giving you a bit of food for thought, because when you're like standing back and looking up at the mountain, it is a bit daunting with that body of work. Like, it's a massive amount to undertake, but when you have a direction and you set up a space where you can work efficiently and then start trying things out and pivoting when you need to, but have a clear goal in mind. Mind you, that I didn't have a deadline for this one. Like, it was a side project, and if it happened, it happened. And it did. I did work towards it and got something done. And if you clicked on, this is actually the agile management philosophy. I am a software developer, so yeah, I'll leave a link below for that one. But applying it to music, it's definitely given me a lot more creative freedom to try out different things. Like, if you look at my catalog of music that I've released to YouTube, it's quite a broad spectrum, but I have kept a commitment to a video a week. I have tried other things, and I did create an album just by creating a small body of work around a cool idea. So go to the links below, enjoy the music, let me know what you think. I do hope you enjoy it. And if you found anything useful in this video, definitely give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments, because it really does help the algorithm point this video to other people. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you next time.